Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Jay Cartere from growonyoutube.com, teaching you how to be better. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can create a podcast for free using an app called Anchor. So stay tuned.
It's been a cold winter and it's lasted far too long.
Now, I was gonna make this video, how to start a podcast for free with the absence of Anchor. Like, I wasn't gonna use this app until I used it. And I realized how easy it is to use Anchor to actually make a podcast. So I thought this would be some great information to share with you guys so that you can jump on this app and get a podcast started using basically nothing but your smartphone. It's that easy. It's very low minimal cost setup. You can really get into it and get a podcast out there. If you want to check out my podcast or my Anchor, go to anchor.fm/Jay Cartere and you can see the type of episodes and the type of content I've been putting out over there. So maybe you have some inspiration for what you can do on Anchor and you can learn about Anchor a little bit more. But let's get into it. The first step for starting your podcast on Anchor is recording audio. Now, you need to open up the app, obviously, and then you want to press the little plus button at the bottom, the little red plus button, and that will bring up this recording screen. Now, from this recording screen, you can do a few things. You can publish callings, you can put some music on there, you can add some interludes, you can do an interview, which is only available in US, I believe, right about now. But what we're focused on right about now is just recording audio, because obviously you need to put some content out there before people start caring enough to call in. So what you want to do is you want to hold on to that record button, and what I do is I slide up from the button to lock in the record mode, and then I'm able to just record. You could also lift the phone to your ear and record that way if that's something that you want to do, but I generally record with my headset on, and I record by sliding up and locking that recording in place. Now, after you've got the recording done, what you need to do then is add it to your station. So the way you do that is you click on the green arrow, which gives you the opportunity to add it to your station, and then it says add this to your station. You just put in your title for the segment and you add that to your station, and then Bob's your uncle, you've got a segment on your station. Now, the segments are limited to 5 minutes per segment, so that's something you need to think about when you are creating your podcast. You need to realize that the segments are limited in 5-minute increments, but of course, if you have a long subject that you want to talk about, you can just start talking about it, and when you get to like 4 minutes 50 seconds, you can stop and then start the next segment. That's what I do with my podcast. So now you've got some audio on your channel. What is the next step? The next step is to create an episode. Now, with these segments that you've already created, those audio segments, those will be available for public consumption for 24 hours. After that, those will get added to your archives and people won't be able to see that, but you still can. The way to have those on your Anchor permanently and add it to your podcast is to add those segments to an episode. So what you want to do is you want to press the add episode button on the top right. You can either do that on your station tab or your episodes tab, and then once you do that, it will give you the option to select some segments. Now, you can select whatever segments you like from your station. You can also use call-ins from other Anchor members who've called into your channel. I don't believe you can use segments from other people's channel, but you can use interludes. You cannot add music to your permanent episodes, and you can't add other people's clips. Of course, as I said before, you can add call-ins, so that is lovely and dandy. These are strictly audio podcasts. You can't add music or anything like that to it, so keep that in mind. Obviously, the background music that's already applied to your audio on Anchor can be added, so don't include that when I'm talking about music. Now, once you've gone through that, you name your episode and that will be added to your station. People will be able to check that whenever they come to your Anchor profile. That will be there forever. And what you can do from there is you can set up your podcast. Now, these episodes will be the episodes that will be synced to your podcast, so keep that in mind. If you just want to save a segment or something like that, and you add it to an episode, that is going to be added to your podcast. I'm unsure if there's a way to keep that episode from your podcast right about now. If there is, I'll make an update about it and let you know exactly how to do that. But right about now, just assume that any episode you make will go to your podcast. So after you've done that, you can now begin setting up your podcast. Now, if you go to the episodes tab, you should see a strip at the top that says set up. And it also says publish your episodes in a podcast. You want to click on that, and then you'll have the option to customize your podcast name, the author of the podcast, which should be your personal stage name or whatever, or maybe your company name. Then you can edit the podcast description, the podcast cover art, and the podcast category. Now, these are all important things that you should definitely look into customizing and optimizing so that you're going to get the best viewership or listenership on your podcast. And then once you do all that, once you deal with all those details, your podcast will be submitted, and your podcast should be up within, I think they say it's around 48 hours to be approved. Now, my podcast personally, I believe my first episode was out within 24 hours. I was able to search for it on the iTunes store, but the notification at the top of the podcast, at the top of the episodes tab, had not changed to where it is now, which is a green tick that says your podcast is set up. So that may take a little while, or maybe that was a little bug. This is a very new app and they are still working on it and adding new features all the time, so keep that in mind. Now at this point, you're basically done. You've got a podcast out, and look how easy that was. You just recorded some audio into your phone and you turn those into segments, turn those into an episode, and now Bob's your uncle, you have a podcast. You can manage your podcast, you can edit it at any time using the option button, or the little cog, I think that's what they call it, the little cog on the episodes tab. You can use that cog to edit pieces of your podcast. You can change the name and do all that sort of stuff. And you can also see how many people have listened to your podcast by clicking on the episodes on your channel, and you can basically see the listeners. You can see where they're coming from. You can see if they're coming from Anchor or if they're listening through a podcast app, for example, iTunes and Google Play. And as soon as you set this up, your podcast will be sent to iTunes and Google Play. Now, I hope this video helps you out. Be sure to check out my podcast, the Grow on YouTube podcast, and check me out on Anchor. You can call in with your questions and get involved with the podcast over there, anchor.fm/Jay Cartere. Find me there. A lot of interesting stuff going on over there. I am sharing my daily routine. I'm letting you guys know what's going on with me. It's kind of like a vlog type thing with informative parts in between, and basically discussing a new topic every day to help you guys with your YouTube channel. So definitely go over there if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in.
I just wanted to add something because I forgot to say this while I was recording, but when you publish a podcast through Anchor, if you actually listen to that podcast on the podcast app on iTunes, and I'm assuming any other app, you will see that Anchor actually places an advert at the beginning of your podcast, and I believe it's about 10 seconds, so you can just skip it really easily with a 15-second skip. But it is definitely something worth noting if you're considering using Anchor to make a podcast, just in case you don't want the ad in front. But I do feel like the freeness of you being able to make a podcast like this and the simpleness of it is worth just having a 15-second ad or 10-second ad at the beginning of your podcast. But obviously some people may not like that, so I thought I'd make sure you guys knew. Before you go, I just want to let you know that you can download the 3 great ways to use a podcast to build your personal brand PDF using the link in the description below. If you're having trouble deciding what to do with your podcast, then these 3 podcast ideas will help you out. So definitely go and download that now.
It's been a cold winter and it's lasted far too long. So all this warmth I share with you.